Got this note from, I'm thinking it's, anonymous. The subject is the cult of multiculturalism. I'm just going to read it to you. I just completed a 2-day diversity workshop as a staff member at the local UC, University of California. I feel like I've come out of a cultural reconditioning camp. Some of what I heard was interesting, such as the group's personal stories of discrimination and triumph, but most of it was downright disturbing. And I say this as someone who is definitely leaning towards liberal, especially on social issues. We started the workshop with our working assumptions, which included that oppression is pervasive, and that even though past discrimination is not our fault, we need to accept responsibility for it.
F you. That'd be what I say right there to the teacher. Hey, F you. I'm leaving now. I have to accept responsibility for everything that's happened in history.
Well, as a fan of the language, I'd like to point out that that's a lot of fancy words that when you put them together are rather contradictory and odd. The facilitators repeatedly made statements like, quote, the world needs people like us, and we may get discouraged, but the work we are doing is changing the world, and we have to keep pushing. We're also instructed to turn off our minds, that we need to do heart work, focus on how we feel and not how we think.
Wow.
They actually were saying that out loud. How many times have I, Joe Getty, come in here and said the problem with liberalism is it's all about how you feel. It's not about what works or what the data shows to be effective. It's about how it makes you feel. And they're actually saying that out loud.
You're bothered by the meaning of this, which is, the real problem. Just the jivey nature of the wording is making me ill.
Right.
We need to do hard work. Oh, my God.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just threw up all over the conference table.
You're going to need to do janitorial work now. You're going to need dental work when I'm done. One of the ground rules was that we need to stop and refocus our emotions if we ever feel the need to critique the program, rather than immerse ourselves in it. So one of the preconditions of this was you can't question anything I say. You've got to accept it, or there's something wrong in your heart. If you find yourself critically thinking about this, you're making a mistake. This was the most upsetting instruction to me. I think that at a program telling me not to critique the program is not to be trusted. Well, it's a little cultish.
No kidding.
Later in the workshop, we discussed the steps on the ladder to diversity. And there was talk of a
Step 1, hire a black guy.
And there was talk of a critical thinking step. You're probably thinking, great, finally critical thinking. But no, critical thinking is a bad thing. The facilitators discussed how the dominant group, whites in this case, are too logical, think too much, that our decisions and interactions should be based on what we feel rather than on the facts. They actually said that the facts should be ignored. Finally, we ended with the facilitators asking us to write down the names of colleagues that could benefit from recruitment into the workshop. Does that not sound like a cult to you? We received an evaluation form, and I thought, good, at least I can try to make some constructive criticism. But when I looked at the form, the questions were things like, what did you learn about yourself today? What lessons will you take into your community to spread diversity? And how can you practice what you've learned here today on a daily basis?
That's the evaluation.
I apologize for the language, guys, but this touchy-feely bull-ass really pisses me off. As my group members hugged and wrote down each other's contact information.
Oh, good Lord.
And contracts to each other on how they will continue to improve. Oh. I bolted out the door feeling irritated and like the only person who was able to avoid drinking the Kool-Aid. I, of course, feel that discrimination is wrong and that through our individual actions we can choose to do the right things. But surely these type of diversity workshops aren't the answer to solving the world's problems. And surely this isn't an effective use of university funds and my time as a staff member.
I was about to say, how much taxpayer money around the country is spent on the county, state, and federal level with this sort of crap?
And I knew that if anyone would understand, it would be you guys, A and G. Thanks for letting me vent. Let's begin with the beginning. You need to turn off your critical thinking. And if at any point you start thinking what you're hearing today is the most lame bull S you've ever heard, you need to turn that part of your mind off. And then you need to get into this black robe and you need to drink this special applesauce we've made for you so we can all go meet the Hell Bop comic. Oh, are you freaking kidding me? That's the UC system.
Oh, good Lord. That is funny.
These people,
I don't think I could have sat through that.
These people, I could not. If I had to keep my job, I would start, thinking I would indulge in exercises like trying to name every starting player for the 1973 Chicago Cubs that I rooted for so hard when I was a little kid. And then I'd move on to a sexual fantasy, and then I'd think, all right, name the states in alphabetical order, and whatever it took to get through it. But, for most of human history, until an empire gets so comfortable and affluent that they can indulge bull-ass like this, for most of human history, these people would be hooted out of the room, and they'd go back to writing very nice poetry and painting very nice pictures, but they wouldn't be asked to be in charge of anything because they can't run anything effectively.
And they always have these sorts of things at organizations that have already won the battle they're fighting. What lack of diversity is happening on UC campuses?
Yeah, no kidding. Wow, let's start there.
Not very many white males would be the only unrepresented area.
White people are too logical. There's too much critical thinking, and it gets in the way of their feelings.
That's really interesting. You are listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.